like, how do they even calculate this like net worth? Is this just like all the money that they have tied up in properties? Like, is that everything?
It's the worth of your assets minus your liabilities. That's your net worth.
Oh, okay. So mine's minus $1 million.
I wouldn't know. I doubt it though.
I have nothing, I just spend all my money on bullshit.
Didn't you just buy that house the last time you were on the show?
Yeah, but
okay.
Okay, all right.
Well, I didn't realize it was an incredibly predatory line.
Are we counting all the money I waste on beer and stuff? Because I never have money left in my account every week. So
those are assets.
99% interest sounds like it's an A+.
How much are you borrowing? $1. Yeah, you're gonna definitely need a good line of credit on that. Yeah, the repayments will be $3,000 a week. That $1.
I don't know anything, but I know all my friends who are looking for houses right now are all holding off because of how expensive shit is right now. What's like the economist projection, or as if they ever get anything right?
It always goes up.
Yeah,
I pay a lot of attention to this, and that's what you want to know, right?
Yeah.
Houses have really skyrocketed lately. Is it about to go back down? But if anyone could answer that question, they'd be a trillionaire. It's just
it never, unless the entire economy crashes, it doesn't go down.
I thought the stock market was due for a dip for 5 years now, and it wasn't a Trump thing. It was just like, what? It's been going up for 7 years in a row. That's about the length of a economic boom. 7 years, 8 years, something like that. We're probably going to trend down. Trended up the entire Trump presidency, and I think we just hit a new high like within the last few days. It dipped since then, but yeah, it just keeps going up, and eventually it'll go down, and I'll be like one of those bears that claims they predicted it. I knew all along. But yeah, anyway, I don't know where it's going.
Like, I swear property never goes down. Like, it does. Well, it doesn't in Australia. So maybe
2008 crash would like to have a word with you.
Yeah, aside from that, but they're like, that's like a massive, like, world-ending fucking recession, and that's like, they're pretty rare. Like, that's like
agree.
a 100-year event.
It's a thing that trends up, so it doesn't go down very much. And it seems like whenever it goes down, that means it takes longer to sell. Like, it doesn't actually go down very much.
No.
But it also ran up kind of unprecedentedly during this COVID thing. So maybe they're not unprecedentedly, but like,
I don't get
it's run up a lot. It seems like it could
I swear,
down.
like, a lot of people that were like, that brought, like, I brought during the COVID stuff, and the entire reason for that was I had money set aside to just travel overseas like nonstop all year, and then I was like, can't do that. What the fuck am I going to do with my money? I don't want it sitting in my account just like doing nothing, so I'm just going to buy a house.
Yeah, this is just me talking out of my butt, but I think one, like you mentioned, people who spread their disposable income somewhere else, like restaurants, movies, travel, etc., suddenly found that piling up. And I think two, people started working from home a lot. And that changed a lot of people's housing requirements. Suddenly a house with one spare bedroom seems a little weak. We need two offices because my husband and I both work. And
that's exactly why we moved. Like, my wife was working in the kitchen, and the house that we're in was like
where she belongs.
My feminist.
That's where mine works.
So we had like a 3-bedroom house, and it just wasn't enough room. So we're like, yeah, let's move. And then we just like moved straight away. And it was just because of that. Like, we're working from home. We're like, this fucking sucks. This house is way too small for you and me to be like cooped in here working nonstop. So.
Yeah, I've seen real life examples of that where like suddenly this like, a friend of mine had like a 4-bedroom house, and he's like, we thought this would be enough for like us to have 3 kids. And now it's like, we're looking at like a 5-bedroom house with a specific office area, and then another one can be her office, and another. And it's like you get to, at least from what I've been looking, I always poke around on real estate, looking at houses just for fun, because it's interesting. I'll just look at areas I've never thought of before. I'm like, what's fucking Bozeman, Montana looking like? Like just out of curiosity. And it's like once you get to like 5 bedrooms now, it feels like there's always been a tier of that, like over 4, under 6, but like it's an understood thing now. You want to have kids, you want to have 2 people working from home, you need 5. Like you need that now.
In my lifetime, I've seen that number go from 3 to perhaps 5, if you say that. I've definitely seen it go from 3 to 4. It used to be 3-bedroom house. Like, oh, you can always sell a 3-bedroom house. There's always a new family who wants that. It's the size that is the most popular. And then that changed to kind of 4. Like this idea that like, you know, mom, dad, 2 kids, no spare bedrooms, no spare rooms, period, was normal. Now it's like, 4 is better. Yeah. And now maybe it's 5. It's growing, which also ties into the like 21-year-olds being like, my parents bought a house for $800 and now they're $250,000. Your parents' house was 3 bedrooms and no air conditioning. You're looking at the fucking Lamborghini of houses to start in and saying it's not affordable. It's not apples to apples.
I do find that that's a very common thing with like when young people are buying real estate, they're like, oh, I can't buy a house, it's way too expensive. And then I look at like where my parents lived and like my friends' parents, where they lived when they brought their houses. And I was looking at one specifically. He's like, my dad bought his house for $27,000 way back in the 70s or 80s or something like that. And he brought in like what is now very close to town. It was fucking nothing. Like he brought a house in the middle of a field when it was like first thing. And I did that as my first house. So when I was 21, I was like, okay, I'm going to buy a house. My dad's like, you can't afford something in town. Buy a piece of land out in the middle of buttfuck nowhere and then build a house on it. It was really cheap. And there was nothing there. And then I rented it out for 8 years and then I moved back into it. When I went back there, I actually couldn't find my house because it was so developed there and I hadn't been down there because there was a real estate agent looking after it, that I didn't even know which fucking street it was on because there was so many more streets had been added to that neighborhood. That was because and now it's a developed area.
I assume the worth of it went way up.
It's triple. So
nice.
And then I went back and like that's how I brought this current house, because once you're in, you've got equity. I built that house for $250,000. It's worth like over 600 now. I went back. I only owed 150 grand on it.
But these are Australian dollars, right? So that's
it's true. It was a very cheap house.
$100.
But when I like $100. Yeah, it's like a shanty. It was a refrigerator. But I go back there now, and they're like, oh, yeah, we'll value it at whatever it was valued at, and then they're like, okay, so you have this much money to put towards your next house. So I just jack up all the finance on that old house, and then when I got this house, I didn't have to pay like any money for it because it just jacked up the home loan on the other one, which I then just rent out at an exorbitantly high price. So then that pays itself off. So now I don't have a mortgage, and that's like
you played it well. Good job.
Yeah, but that's like that's how everyone you just do that because it just keeps going up.
Yeah,
there's no bad time to be in. You've just got to get in there first, and then it's just free money.
I mean, if I could go back and make like a different financial decision as a young adult, it would have been to buy real estate and property earlier. Like looking back and being like, oh God, the amount of money I just threw in a furnace with rent when I could have been getting.
You spent time in Missouri and Idaho and then back in Missouri again, I think. Am I right on that?
Yeah, that's true. It was like I was 25 when I moved back, like a young 25, like had turned that recently. And like, I wish I had just been like, all right, let's get a home loan now. Like, let's start chipping away at a mortgage and like building equity in something instead of like, no, I guess I'll rent. And I know the reason I did it, because I know myself, was like familiarity, being like, I know how to find an apartment. I like the fact I'm not responsible for it. I like that, and at the time that made more sense to me of like, well, I don't want to be responsible for it. Whereas now it's like, well, fuck, man. Like I could have been in earlier.
That's like,
it'd be nice to be.
Okay. A lot of my friends were like, oh, I don't want to do it because I don't want to like live out of town and stuff like that. I just built one out of town and then just rented it out to like a young family, and they just lived in the center of the city. Like I lived next door to one of the busiest bars in Hobart, and then had the property paying itself off.
Dare to dream.
But it's like it's a nightmare. Oh, was
Dude,
Woody and I are so
it's-
alike. I'm like, ugh.
There's
no,
how
like
many
young
murders are at
people
that
there,
bar?
huh?
yeah, but
annually?
this is when I was 21. It was like my hobbies were doing drugs, and that's
Yeah.
it. So, like I wasn't like I didn't give a fuck about noise because it's like, okay, if there's a noisy party next door, I'll just smoke 35,000 bongs and then just fall asleep. So it doesn't really matter. It's like I didn't really give a fuck. But it
Yeah.
was like I didn't actually live there, but I was sort of lucky. So my dad was just like, you should do this, and I'm like, all right. So
Oh yeah, I
Yeah,
lived
yeah.
when I was like the most ridiculous money I was paying for rent is when I lived like in a pretty good area of St. Louis. Okay, I'm setting myself up. I'm cutting you guys off at the pass at this joke. A good area for St. Louis downtown. For St. Louis, it's a good area.
To
Remember
be
when
honest,
those-
I would have made bigger jokes about
Yeah.
it.
remember when
Idaho.
those guys like those rioters like tore that fence down and then those like two
Yes.
St. Louis couple. I lived like less than a mile. I could walk there. I couldn't get in because there was a wrought iron gate, but like I know exactly where that was.
You could.
I could have found my way in. I just needed a bunch of
wait, was
people on my
that
back.
was that the Karen and the John with the
Yeah.
M4?
Yeah, they were.
Oh,
they
yeah, I
were
remember
like,
that. I remember looking at that dude, and I was like, that dude looks like Woody if he was like 10 years older.
Oh, dude, I remember seeing people. I remember like seeing people comment online and being like, they probably just like wandered into that neighborhood, and I was like, I can guarantee that's not true because there are 14-foot stone and brick like mason walls with like wrought iron gates in there. Like there was it. I wouldn't have known how to get in. I don't even know. Like you probably need a pass. But anyway, I lived close to there, and I lived like adjacent above, not entirely above. A bar
He does.
called
It's like-
yeah,
it's like
exactly.
six
I know
Woody.
exactly. No GPS. I could
Zach,
find
pull
that
up a
out.
big picture. The one I linked, maybe.
That's how Woody talks to waitresses. that point, and that face of indignation. I said medium rare.
But I remember like the first few months I was living. I only lived there for like a year and a half, little over a year and a half. But I was like adjacent over a very popular bar called Sub-Zero Vodka Bar, now out of business since the lockdown stuff. But I remember the first few months, like when I'd go to bed, I could hear like the sound of it, and I'm like, "This is kind of neat. It's so lively. It's so fun down here." And like the last couple months, I'm like, "This fucking sucks. This is the worst ever." Like,
I don't have a sound system currently because I don't have an insulated garage door, and I'm not going to insulate this garage door before I leave. The place I'm
Yeah.
yeah, but I think I'm going to put a sound system in the next place rather than, you know, I've been using like a noise canceling headset that's really nice because I'm running a fan in there. I don't hear that drone of it all the time. But as long as I got some tunes going, I can stay pretty motivated. I mixed in a bunch
Real
of
sound
cheesy
system's
motivational
legit.
stuff.
You might be surprised how good the like Bluetooth speakers are now. I could link you the same one mine is, and
Sure, yeah.
not only does it fill my gym, which isn't that hard, but it also works next to the pool, which is hard.
I
Like,
was
in terms of filling space.
that makes sense. I was looking at I want a marker board on the wall at somewhere, and I was looking at ways to achieve that. Marker boards are a little bit expensive.
Are we talking about a dry erase board? Is that what I
I
think?
am.
Of?
Yeah.
Okay.
But the way I want to do it instead is just put plexiglass on a white wall with black marker, and whiteboard achieved. Right?
Is whiteboard expensive?
Not
I don't know.
really. Like I
assumed
them
it
a
might
lot.
be.
They're like $10-15. They're not.
Well, fuck it then. I'll get a big.
Well,
one.
these are like, you know, like tiny ones. I imagine the big ones couldn't be $100.
What are you using
got
it
a
for?
pretty big
Kyle?
budget. You know, I want like a 3-foot by 5. I want a giant ass marker board like you'd have in a school, so I can keep track of lifts and everything. I just want to put that on the wall so it's at a glance without flipping through my little book anymore.
You know,
I only
keep track
ask
of his
because
rental
they make
vans,
them-
forklifts.
They make them with the grid there, so you can like write your own calendar every month, which you might find useful for all sorts of, you know, like the week, or you might put like the grid to just lay out your shit if you want graph paper.
I've been spending a lot of time figuring out what I'm going to put in there. It's going to be really fun once I get moved out. I should be out by the end of the month. Fingers crossed. The market's been crazy.
Yes.
I ended up like at first I was like, okay, I'll put in a thing on this house or that house or the other house, and then after like 3 or 4 of them, they're like, oh, there's 8 people in front of you when the house came onto the market like a day prior.
Yeah.
So I think I'm currently applied into like 15. I'm like $500 of application fees in. It's wild how the market is, but I'm pretty sure,
really is.
I'm pretty sure that sort of spaghetti against the wall effect is going to yield a home before.
I hope so. I was looking at real estate recently, and it is my nature every time these young people complain to say, all right, I don't want to completely invalidate your complaints, but suck it up, bitch, and succeed anyway.
Mhm.
Oh, these jobs don't exist anymore. I'll admit that it's hard. Suck it up, bitch. Get it done anyway. Nowadays these opportunities don't exist. Nowadays this sucks. Nowadays whatever. And it's like, whatever. Housing, they are right. They are right. Housing is insane.
It's not fun.
How do you get when I was young, I used to feel like that guy over there makes a little more than me. We had the same job, but his lifestyle is much more affordable because he hasn't bought a house recently. My house was 190 grand. His house was like 50 grand 20 years ago, and he doesn't have the same overhead that I do. It's more extreme now. Like this old guy bought a house for 180 grand. Now it's $600,000, and the salaries haven't tripled. Housing is so expensive. I feel for you guys who don't have houses already. It is really hard to get one. I imagine the housing market's going to crash. I don't know. We'll see.
I've got a buddy who he had it was just a little 2-bedroom house near a city that he paid, if I want to remember right, it was $78,000 for in 2015, somewhere around there. He sold it 3 months ago. He put it on the market for $120,000, and the next day someone offered him 30% above asking. Immediately just sold within 24 hours. And that's pretty much been the kind of story I've heard everywhere, especially around the South, and especially in kind of suburban, not super populated areas. I have not heard of a house lasting a week. It
doesn't.
Absurd.
No, that's exactly what I'm looking for houses in Atlanta, and they're gone in a day or two.
Yeah.
And when you go to the ones and view the ones that have stuck around for 10, 15 days, it's like they're selling it with that hole in the ceiling. Well, they're going to get to that. I'm like, it's actively falling in.
Yeah.
I don't think it's safe to be here.
Now pay me an extra 20 grand over listing and thank me.
So a big part of it is those massive groups like Progress Residential. I think they're the biggest in the world. Maybe they're projected to hit 1 million homes owned this year. They'll pay 30%.
Zillow is doing a bunch. Isn't BlackRock doing a bunch? There's a ton of companies buying up a ton of shit.
Well, Progress, that's what they do. Progress is a housing company. All they do is buy houses and rent them, and they're getting to a point where they have so much of the market that they're starting to be able to really control the rent at this point.
Yeah, and they're just
they overpay for the homes. Obviously, it's difficult to outbid them.
Because they know in the short term, they lose a little money, but now they own the housing market and can, get rent out of people for years.
Yeah,
pretty fucked up.
Bigger game at play that needs to be cracked down upon.
That's beyond fucked for corporations to just be buying up family homes and then just forcing rent.
It doesn't sound very free market.
Sounds like a monopoly.
It's not.
That's
crazy. You're right, Woody. It doesn't, does it?
Not everything has to be free market.
Whoa.
But I don't think everything has to be necessarily a free market. The government should absolutely.
I want some of that
lock down and be like, sorry, company, you can't go into Cincinnati and buy up all the homes and then offer exorbitant renting prices to the locals there. Fuck you.
That's literally what they did in RoboCop. This is RoboCop.
I'm not saying you guys are wrong. I might even think you're right, but I am surprised you're thinking it because it seemed. I thought you were more free market a few years ago.
It's not even necessarily free market per se. It's the fact it's these massive corporations.
We're fickle, Woody. Now it's affecting us.
That's touche. All right, I stand corrected.
It's Wendigan. I want you to get back to it. Go ahead.
Oh no, you're good. I was saying they're given so many leeways and bailouts and breaks and extensions here and able to merge here. And like, it's not free market, it's corporatism that is state funded. So therefore the state has access. For one, several of the people in the state are also shareholders in these companies. But even besides that, they're given all these breaks to where they can become these super multi-industry conglomerates, and then they can just start buying houses. They're like, oh, what? We're just landlording. That's all it is. But
we're not going to be black pilling here today.
Okay. Fair.
We're white pilling, which means the Blues are going to win Game 6.
Do you ever think about buying a home? I don't know if it's a good idea financially. Like,
I was going to do that this year, but obviously the market was so funky, and it seems like it's going to like fall off the cliff. And so honestly, like what I've been doing is waiting on the market to fall off that cliff. So, God, I don't want to throw.
Go to Texas.
No, because I don't want to throw like
what's that weed?
$500,000 at something, and then next year that $500,000 house could have been a $750,000 house. It's like, man, because the difference is huge. Like, I don't. There's first world problems here, but the difference between a $250,000 house and like a $400,000 house really isn't a ton. But when you go from 400 to like 600 or 700, it's like, oh shit,
yeah,
y'all added like another fucking house and made everything nicer.
Yeah,
it's a big step up.
But Texas is really crazy, and I don't imagine that the prices would drop there, because it's like, I can't believe how big these houses are for the amount that the people are paying.
What did you mean by
plus
crazy?
You could get guns again.
Not sure about that. What did you mean Texas?
What do you mean?
Crazy?
Oh, Texas is like, I've seen like $700,000 houses that would cost $5 million in Canada easily.
Exactly. Because all right, so what you're starting with the piece of land that you're sitting on, right? Like, so I grew up in that you've been there, little Franklin County, Georgia, and so property there, like where my dad is, like when I was growing up, that land was $5,000 an acre. It's still only like $10,000 an acre or something like that. But if you buy property right there on the lake, it's $250,000, and they don't even cut it into acres anymore. They cut it into like quarters and halves of acres. It's the same thing. You go out to Texas and they're like, yeah, we got plenty of land. Like what do you it's probably $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 an acre. It's not like building a house right in the suburbs somewhere where like the piece of property that I'm sitting on right now, God knows. I bet it
gets really cheap. I was watching a YouTuber. Now, this isn't where you'd want to live because it doesn't have utilities and everything's 40-minute drive away. But it was $287 an acre. $287. Like, that is, an acre is a little over free.
Yeah. There, at that point, it becomes, what kind of utilities can we expect out here? What kind of internet capabilities?
Where's the Costco?
The cost? Oh, the Costco.
Yeah, the store.
Yeah.
Well, I see a place and I'm like, you could have nothing. You got a Costco and a Walmart, and I'm like, let's go, bro. This is a viable location to begin a life.
Yeah. When you live on the East Coast here, you don't even realize how remote places can be, like even in America. That I've gone on all these motorcycle trips now, so my eyes are open to it. I went on a trip. This wasn't a bike trip, but anyway, last year, and I got strep throat. I couldn't see a doctor until Monday. It started on Friday. Like, I was really suffering. It was hard to breathe. It was hard to eat. I was really, really having a hard time. And like, really no doctors in like 90 minutes? That sucks. That super sucks. I go on these long trips and it's like, you can't buy a GoPro within 200 miles of this spot. That doesn't happen here. I don't know how many GoPros are in Raleigh. There must be 100.
Do you ever?
There's someone ready to go pick you up a GoPro and bring it to you where you live right now.
I think you're right.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. Do you ever process that, like, man, if I hurt myself here, I'm on my own, and it's going to be like a helicopter, or I'm going to have to tough it out for miles? Because I remember we were in the middle of nowhere in New Mexico on your BLM land. We had driven off of a lonely road for an hour and a half. But what you got to keep in mind is it's not that fast hour and a half down a road. It's like off-road, driving through canyons and like over washed out riverbeds and stuff. We are in the wilderness, 4x4 only shit. And we were shooting that minigun off the top of that hill, and the round exploded on the inside of my thigh, like where your femoral artery is. And I didn't know I thought I might be shot, it burned and it hurt bad. And I had seen the flash and the explosion, but we finished shooting and said the thing. And then I immediately jerked my pants down. There's like two women there and like all my friends. And I like jerked my pants down, fucking butt naked. And there's a cigar burn on the inside of my thigh where that round had exploded and just burnt the shit out of me, but not.
Can you help me understand the mechanic of the injury? Like a bullet seemed to hit you, but it didn't hit you hard. I don't understand.
Keep in mind, it's a minigun I'm shooting, so it has that big belt that's being fed by an electric motor that's powered by a 12-volt car battery. It's spooling up, so it's forcing those through that belt at an incredibly fast rate, 4,500 per minute. And one of them exploded in the belt against my thigh. So I don't know what part of it hit me or what part of it burned me at all. It was almost dark when we shot it, for effect. Mm-hmm. So I just saw an explosion happen next to my thigh and had the big nasty burn on my inner thigh.
A round went off in the belt.
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
Okay, wow.
Or like burst like I don't think like, oh, the bullet took off like it came out of a gun. It's more like the
needs a barrel for that. Yeah.
Yeah, it sort of blew up like a little mini .308 caliber hand grenade. I guess, or something like that. But in that moment, I was real scared because there was no getting to help if you were bleeding. It was going to be hours. It was going to be like a solid 2.5 hours to get to like the guy who has like the thing that clamps your fucking artery off. That guy with the clampy forceps thing. Like he's 2.5 hours away and he's asleep or probably.
Yeah. My last trip was like that. I was going through Death Valley and BLM land in Nevada and California, and it's like I don't think there's another human within 80 miles of me right now. And what the land itself, like I don't think I talk about on the show, and it blows my mind that I think you could have changed the year by 500,000 years. It could be 500,000 years ago and there'd be no difference. Like you just wouldn't even notice the time changed. This place is so untouched by people.
Maybe.
Yeah.
What do you want in a house, Kyle? You talk about going to Colorado, right? What does Kyle's house look
I like those cabins. I like those cabins that are like somewhere between rough finished and like completely finished. Like kind of like you didn't see that one. I don't know, like the big beams on the inside and everything, and kind of an unfinished look, but not like where there's bark and everything. I like those a lot.
Are you on the side of a mountain with no neighborhood where you need 4-wheel drive half the winter, or are you in a more civilized area where you can get to a grocery store conveniently?
Yeah, somewhere in between. I wouldn't mind like a 15-20 minute drive to like get to necessities, but I don't want to be so far up that it's like if I forget a can of soup when I get back home, I'm like, no, fuck, I don't even have enough gas to go back and forth again. I'll have to fill up when I get there. I don't want to be an hour away from civilization.
And you need bandwidth. I felt like when I was shopping for a house, this was 5 years ago, people didn't look at bandwidth. They just like find out after the fact. No, man, I need to know the internet speed at this house. How you sell a house with bad internet speed? Like, does this house not have water or electricity also? Like, these are fundamental things.
Yeah.
Kyle, if you don't mind me asking, what are you looking to spend on a house in Colorado? Because I, for the first time, have some money in my life, and my buddies who are much more successful and rich than I, they say a house is the first investment I should start looking into. So I'm putting money into a mortgage instead of just lighting it on fire for rent.
Yeah, I've been saving for a couple of years now. I've looked at a lot of houses in Colorado in various areas, and around 400,000, they start getting to the point where it's like, oh, this would work. This would work because I'm not gonna have a family, so I don't need like 6 bedrooms or something. I do want extra rooms for like, the stuff that I like to do, VR and all that nonsense. But yeah, 400,000 is probably not the roof, but probably the floor.
And that can get you something nice in Colorado? Because that's affordable.
Depends on the area.
In LA, that's not fucking happening.
No, that won't cut it in LA. Dude, if you go to like a rural area, like where I'm from, a $400,000 house is a goddamn mansion. Just enormous. Like it's 8,000-9,000 square feet or something, and very, very, very nice. It's for one thing, the labor's cheaper there, and just the property. Obviously, land there is $5,000 an acre for decent land. You can get a plot on the lake, on like Lake Hartwell for $200,000 for a couple of acres, like right on the lake, where you could like have your jet skis or your boat or whatever go right out into the lake and have access to all of that. So it really depends on what part of Colorado I go to, and bandwidth is the deciding factor for that. Obviously, Denver's probably out of the question. I bet stuff there I've noticed is very expensive. But I think there's a place called Parkview I looked at, or something like that. So, or maybe I looked at Aurora as well, I think, where they had that theater shooting with the Joker guy. And places like that seemed much more reasonable.
The Hartwell example, I bet you wouldn't have good internet there.
No, like specifically like where I was, like I lived on Lake Hartwell for several years there. And we had it was like a local internet company called Gumlog Cable. Gumlog is like a little community there, like a township or whatever you would call it. And it was atrocious. It was like maybe 2 upload with like 15 download, and it could be sketchy at times. Yeah. Whereas now, like, I'm not sure about my exact numbers, but it's close to a gig down and like several hundred up. Like when I went to download Halo the other day, it was like, I don't remember what the initial download was, but let's call it 15 gigs. And then like the campaign was another 20 gigs. I did that shit in like 15 minutes or something like that. It was so fast.
When I was buying this house, I'd have to work with company this one, and then I looked at another one too that was on the lake, and they're like, yeah, we don't offer service. I'm like, you don't offer it now? Let's talk construction prices. And they'd be like, yeah, way too much, $40,000. It's like, well, maybe, I look at this house, add $40,000 to the cost of it, and decide if I still want it. I just need to know what that number is. You might be in the same situation. So you're like, this is the dream. It's 10 minutes from the grocery store, but it's 15 acres on the side of a mountain overlooking, my version of heaven. I'll pay $40,000 more to make this place happen.
Now, Kyle, little hint, or a tip rather, you should get somewhere close enough that you could go ski if you wanted.
I don't want to.
So that I can fly to your house.
I saw where that was going immediately.
And then and ski from Kyle's.
And it should have 2 guest rooms, because I don't want to share with Taylor.
Like
Woody and I don't want to ski alone.
Like this is a cabin kit, which is probably what I would do. And let me see what this costs. I think this was $350,000.
I love that around the entire house porch. That's really cool,
dude.
You throw some awesome parties.
For some perspective here, I rent a house in LA. It's $1 million house with 2 other guys. And those neighbors can probably hear me right now. And over here, the little kid's wiffle ball wakes me up hitting my window in the morning. We have no space. It's tiny. It's dirty. There's bum shit all over the sidewalks. And that's $1 million house. This is pissing me off. This is what, 350 you said?
I was briefly, I was like, $1 million house? That's, LA. $1 million house means ghetto.
Absolutely.
Not that. So where do you want to be if you're not in LA? Like a couple options, really.
My only other place I could see myself living would be Vegas, which is close enough to LA that for the comedy YouTube scene, I can make the commute. It's about 4 hours from LA. And it's obviously no state income tax, a lot less demand for housing. That's the only other play. But I think I'm just going to stay in LA and deal with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
that'd be
a lot
neat,
of
though. No income tax for
successful
state.
YouTubers in LA that might not have the same success somewhere else, right? It's not that they're not talented. It's just that there's a big benefit to collaborating and having that environment. And in the gaming world, it seemed like California, Southern California specifically, had a bunch of conventions. And you have some in the Call of Duty, for example. If you can play that game before it goes out, and then you're making videos about your playing experience, people are interested. This is out of date now, but to make it Valorant, make it whatever. Like if you get early access and you get to attend these things, there's some competitive advantage for you. Out here in in North Carolina, like everything involves 6 hours of flight and a day in advance, and it's a disadvantage.
No, absolutely, Woody. Collaborations. I mean, I collaborated with this channel called Nelk, and that's what put me on the map as far as blowing up my viewership. But the thing that people don't think about, and which is really important for my channel, which is all about filming out on the street, in the wild, is there's so many different climates, terrains, cities in California. I drive 2 hours that way, I have a desert. I go 15 minutes that way, I have the Pacific Ocean. There's a redwood forest to the north. San Francisco, LA. So there's a ton of variety that you wouldn't get in a lot of other places. And that's for me why I want to stay here.
That makes sense.
I get it. Yeah. What was in your hand before the bigger red thing, Danny?
This is a pencil that I used for a comedy sketch, and I don't even remember which one it was.
I thought it was a dildo. I still choose to believe it could be.
You hoped. Oh, yeah.
Oh, that would be
Anything is if you're brave enough.
Anything is correct, Kyle. Yeah, this is sanded down enough. It wouldn't be a complete disaster.
It would be a complete disaster.
Once that eraser comes off, that hollow piece of metal on the back.
We got another perforated colon. Guy tried to fuck himself with a pencil.
So, Kyle, if you get off probation in 5 months or something, could you start looking for a place that soon?
Yeah.
Would you think? You think that's a likelihood?
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
I would immediately
exciting.
go to Colorado and start looking at houses. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be
Figure
awesome.
that
I
whole
hope
thing out.
they
Yeah.
cut you
I'm
loose.
gonna try to
too.
convince my dad to like liquidate everything he has and move out there with me.
He probably is resistant to that because I mean he's probably spent his whole life
Why?
in that. Oh, is he? I didn't
Don't give
know.
a fuck. He's the opposite.
Really?
Yeah.
Good for him.
I would have guessed, like Taylor, that he was deep roots there.
He don't care. He can make friends anywhere.
Sure. Okay.
Nice. So your dad would get his own place, or you'd have like a
Yeah,
father's
he get his
son
own
house?
place. I'd like him to be close by, but I'm sure he could get on his, get himself a place, and I'd get me a place, and it'd be nice to have him nearby though, because I'm his favorite person and he's my favorite person, so it'd be nice for us to live near each other.
Good.
Yeah. The time zone thing makes a difference too, right? Like, even if it's only 2 hours, it separates you more than you'd guess.
Yeah, I suppose so. My sleep schedule's always bouncing around. Right now, I'm pretty good though.
I look
But yeah,
forward to
that's what I
that
do.
part of
And-
your journey. It should
Yeah,
be
and the
fun.
main thing, like you said, it's internet. If I could find a place like out in the middle of nowhere with good internet, I'd be down for that. I definitely want to do some archery hunting, out there in Colorado. That'd be fucking cool.
Buy Hunter S.
yeah.
Thompson's Owl Farm.
Nah,
An owl farm.
Is that what he called it? Hunter S. Thompson had a ranch in the middle of Colorado that he would just get naked on his front porch, get hammered, and shoot guns off of.
I know he had an awesome.
I was like,
Well,
you
not
can do
awesome.
that,
Probably
Georgia.
very
You
depressing.
can do that.
Yeah.
we do that right here.
Like every day, that guy just got fucked up from start to finish. Like you read his schedule, it's insane. You're in a home, right? At this point, you're not still in the
No, I was
street?
committed involuntarily. It's not a home so much, Taylor, as it is the place I'm now at.
a sanitarium,
sane
it's not an
asylum.
asylum. Yeah,
Are you asking about the house situation? Is that what the question
your
is?
house situation. Because please don't.
I close on
let
that
me in.
Friday morning. So we're recording this Wednesday. So Friday morning is when I'll be closing on that, and that's coming up real fast.
And that's
So-
the final. You'll be fucking done. You'll have your
That's
own
the
place in
closing.
the house.
Yeah,
Thank God.
yeah.
You've been dealing with
we
this
get the
forever.
keys.
Tell me everything. I want to know. Like, I'm trying not to dox you, so that's in my like the front of my
Appreciate
head.
it. Okay.
Where in the country are you going to buy a house? Is it your first home? Tell me
It is
more.
my first home.
First number of your address.
Portland Avenue.
You want the last four of my social, yeah, okay.
Blood
Yeah,
type?
I've been doing that though. I didn't realize quite how invasive the process of taking out a loan is for this. Like, I mean, I've never been so financially violated in my life for like by privacy elements of that, right? The number of times they've asked for everything, and it's even worse as a streamer since I'm self-employed and I'm not an LLC, which means that they want like 6 levels of verification of things that I got an email from the underwriter of the loan like 2 days ago, and she was like, "Can I speak to your HR department?" And I was like mind blown. I'm like, I've been giving you guys, yeah, right. Well,
Yeah,
I've been
one
giving you-
second.
Carl, I've been giving them
this is Sven of HR. Yeah.
Oh my God, you would have been a great person to have around for that, Taylor. It was an email, unfortunately, not a phone call. But
You just
that
put a
would have
lot of
been
umlauts over the vowels. So like, a different guy.
But at this point, like, I mean, they know more about me most probably than like my physician, right? Like the fact that they're now asking for something that's so clearly not going to be part of it. I'm just like, what did I give you all this information for? Why did you demand every minute detail of my life if you weren't going to do anything with it and then ask me stupid questions? Like,
And did
where's
they,
your
like-
HR department?
And they asked you like 5 times for all the info. And it's like, I bought my first house a couple years ago, and it was also my first experience. And so like, you know, when you're new to something, you assume everything is your fault. Like, I'm so sorry, everything, it's all on me. Like, at the end of the process, it was like, this is the 4th time I've sent these bills and this bank statement to this guy. I'm pretty sure he's just like not checking his past emails from me and just writing to me, can you send all this again? Can you send all this again? But it took me till the end of the process to be like, I'm not the jerk. Day 1, I sent my shit to him.
Yeah, and the departments don't seem to talk. Like so I'm working with a couple different departments, and it feels like I'm doing everything in duplicate. So I don't know. This is my first time with this. I have nothing to compare to.
What did you find financially violating? Were you sending like bank statements, tax returns?
Yeah, both those. So I mean,
to me, that's normal. Apply for a loan kind of stuff. But to you, it's like, hey, you're invading my privacy. Why would you ask about my income?
I understand why they would ask about income for loans. Like, I understand that that's going to be the process. It's just not a process I've ever done like that. Right. So I've never done something of this degree of, you know, for my finances, this much of my finances in a thing. So I've never had to do this like step of where they, you know, they stick a fucking finger up my ass and tell me to cough, and I'm supposed to smile and be like, you want it again next week? You know, like I'm a bit tired of that feeling.
You've combined procedures with that. I think your doctor just likes to put his finger in your ass. You should be grabbing your scrotum for this.
That's like something that would happen in like a sketch, and then you do that, and he'd be like, all right, the doctor will be in shortly.
That's how it feels. That's a lot how it feels. So, you know.
Well, you got approved T-2 days, and then you'll be in a place with good internet. You won't have to be in that shitty office situation.
Yeah.
I'm not thankfully not in the office either,
yourself.
Oh,
like,
okay.
What have you told the world? What town are you going to live in? What state?
Yeah, I bought a house in Cedar Rapids, Iowa.
So, okay, I was just in Iowa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard. Well, I think we're going to probably get to your trip at some point. It sounds really interesting. Sounds not something I think I would do personally, but it sounds interesting. But anyways, yeah, Cedar Rapids, Iowa.
Very nice. You ran a ton of internet tests, so you're going to be solid forever, I'm sure.
Actually, it's funny. That was actually something that this was the second place we put an offer on. The first place we didn't get, but in the first place that we put a bid in for, that was, we added that to the contract that we would have to do internet testing or that we could back out of it. And this one I called ahead of time, found out which places service it, and I can get fiber there. So yes, it's like not joking. Like that was actually a consideration. If I can't work from the place, it's useless, right? So.
What an annoying bunch of nonsense to have to jump through as a Twitch streamer. Where like it should be so easy. Like, oh, I just go in my room and I turn on the thing, and that's it. But no, you had to. I still remember. I don't know if it was the end of an episode or after we recorded when you turned around and showed that so sad, narrow, vertical window, and I was like, oh, your soul, filthy. Your eternal soul is being pulled away piece by piece.
As if Twitch streaming doesn't do that in the first place. He has to do it from hell.
Yeah. And I guess every job does it, just different rates.
Yeah, kind of said I've got a big room down in the basement set up for this. So I'm going to set up a VR, like half the room for VR. Get another, mount a camera, paint the walls, put some green VR like surface down, and then I'll have the stream room on the other side of that, so I can do both. I'm looking forward to a bunch of things of having my own space. But
did you tell us what your bandwidth was already?
Bandwidth for what?
The new home. Like, do you have 100 gigabit? 50?
No. This is fiber. I'm paying business fiber it's going to be like 25 up, 25 down, Woody. Like, it's not going to be like,
which isn't luxurious, but it's totally enough.
It's enough for streaming. Exactly.
Yeah. But not.
Yes. It's not nice rates. It's slower. It's slower than the cable for sure.
Is it expensive?
Is it expensive? Yeah. About 150 a month for that, I think.
Yeah. I pay like 150 and I get 500 down and like 250 up, something like that.
But that's Atlanta, stable, though.
Yeah, it's Atlanta.
Yeah. The quality makes a big difference. The lag, the latency of the consistency of the latency between the packets makes a big difference. Like, there's a lot to look for in a good. I have just spent a month doing hotel internet, and I'd get them to run a good speed test, right? Like, oh, this thing's got like whatever 17 megabit symmetrical internet. It's going to be great. And then I show up and it's like I'm multiplexing the internet or something. Like whose turn is it to get the megabits? Because I'll be getting none for the next 7 seconds as I try to tell a joke. And it's rough. Yeah, quality internet's a huge deal.
And then like what region you're in is important too. Like I guess it's game dependent. Like being near one of the big like 5 cities in the country, like might determine whether the game that you play has servers in that city. Like Atlanta's great. It seems like they just put servers in Atlanta because like the biggest city in the southeast. So like, seems like I'm always good with games, like very, very low latency. I'm sure obviously New York, LA, places like that are great.
New York and Miami have transatlantic internet cables going to them, so they're usually well served.
It makes a lot of sense.
Have you guys looked into? I haven't looked into it at all, but a friend of mine is like super excited about like the future of this Starlink internet connection, where it's all satellite driven, I guess. Like, have you guys looked into that very much, or is it one of those like it's so far from?
That's going to be great for people who don't have and can't get like the stuff that we just talked about. There's no way that that's going to be an improvement over fiber or cable.
But it'll be a huge improvement, like if you live rurally.
If you're one of those like that guy in the Hangout the other day who's like middle of nowhere Texas, like talking about like the guy just loaned him his $70,000 pickup truck, like take this, go for a ride.
Yeah, that
like,
was awesome.
That guy's gonna get Starlink.
That is pretty sick. That like it's gonna be like. Do you remember just a few years ago? It was like GPS on my phone is hardly working right because you're in the middle of nowhere and I can't text and I can't call. Like now it's going to be like you can be in the middle of bumfuck Egypt and it's like, this YouTube video had to buffer once. Can you imagine? Like, can you believe that? Like,
I don't like it. I don't like it. It's going to make horror movies even harder to explain their situation, right?
Starlink. So they say Starlink is going to be amazing. Zach just wrote 100 megabits up, 100 megabits down. That's a great number. I have gigabit. My life changed zero when I went from like, I forget, I was like at a 70 or 100 to 1,000. No difference. Like maybe the audio version of the podcast uploads faster, but basically no problem. Latency. Now, Zach said latency is probably huge. Right? He's guessing, yeah. I've heard latency is not going to be a problem, but I just don't understand how a signal that goes to fucking space and back on hardware that's very difficult to update is going to be able to keep pace with terrestrial stuff.
Not only are you having to like span that gap, but you're also having to deal with atmospheric conditions, right? It's going through the atmosphere and you've got to be losing some, there's got to be some signal degradation there.
Gotta be. Yeah.
Like if there's cloud cover, if there's a thunderstorm right above your house and you're trying to like beam some sort of laser satellite signal down with internet and you're playing COD where like 2 ticks matter. Like I think it just can't be as good.
Towards the beginning of my trip, like the hotel offered Wi-Fi and it was this really historic, amazing hotel. And I'm so excited. And I'm like, the Wi-Fi seems down. And she's like, yeah. Did you see the dark clouds? Like, of course the Wi-Fi is down. Those clouds are so dark outside. You know? Oh, silly me. I'm sorry. I should have noticed the dark clouds.
Yeah, dummy. Those aren't the easily pass throughable clouds.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what she was saying.
The rain takes the internet and refracts it all around. Sometimes sends it right back up to space.
I mean,
the U.S. is huge.
You talked about how scary it is to be 80 miles, no people near you, and that thought going through your mind. You know what's scary though is to have that thought and then hear someone off in the woods, and maybe hear someone if you heard someone go la 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 Ricola, you would reply back with a Ricola because that's funny shit, and you know that's a jovial man who's in his 30s to 50s.
Because he remembers those cough drop commercials.
He remembers the cough drop commercials, and he's taking advantage of the Mountain Canyon's acoustics. But if you heard Pazuzu, you'd be like, "What? I don't think I'm gonna pack up. Let's just rev on the fuck home."
What if you just heard like echoing of like
You know what I heard?
Like little giggles, sexy? Like those Asian scare. No, not sexy, spooky.
This is why I got into guns. I used to go off-roading, and because I live far away, I'd camp there the night before, whereas other people would drive up there that morning. Cool. Yeah. I'm camping in the woods by myself in Kentucky, and I think I'm totally alone. And no one's supposed to be here. And by the way, there's no running water. There's no reason for anyone to be here. It's supposed to be just me. I think I'm all alone. And I hear a guy say, "Hey, there's a tent there." I'm like, what? How many are out there? What are their intentions? Yeah. Why are they here? What is that? I can't win this.
So I said,
Hey, everybody, look, I heard somebody. Get your guns.
Hey,
wasn't that
Cletus, this
clever.
looks like one of them city slicker things. Pick up at, a nice
you yell
REI.
back.
I wonder
No,
if there's
Taylor.
a wealthy fella right there.
No, from inside the tent, you yell, hey, everybody, get your knives. I hear some people.
Everyone, formation!
Jack
Another
pattern A.
It happened more than once. Another time, a stick broke. Why did a stick broke? What's big enough in the woods to be breaking sticks? Is
All
it a
right, so I-
human? Is it a cat?
Yeah.
Coyote.
I've spent a lot of time in the woods. Like
Okay.
for 3 or 4 years in a row, I spent every morning and every evening of the fall, right? Like every day of deer season, I would go morning and evening, like 3 hours each. And you'll hear so many things that are weird. And it's like you said, it's like, what broke the stick?
Yeah.
I'm armed. I'm ready to go. Like, come on, stick breaker. Step out. Break my stick. I can
Bring your broken stick.
come on. We
This
break
is
all
my
kind of
boob
sticks
stick.
up in here. I'll break some back. It's like what the fuck is break? Like, but I think that it's usually just like weight of a limb, actually like a limb collapsing on itself, like some really rotten stuff is all I can figure. And obviously acorns and shit falling. But I've never heard anything in the woods that I couldn't eventually kind of wrap my head around what that must be. There's some weird birds down here that make squawking noise. It's like it can sound like a screech. It can be weird. And I guess there's bobcats. I saw that one on our little trip, and I know that those make a scary screech, but I've never heard one. I've only seen one once.
In
But-
Kentucky, I don't know my cats that well. Bobcats, mountain lions, wildcats, or whatever, but there are those.
Okay. Yeah. Bobcats are
One of those.
about 35 pounds, and they have like that bobbed tail, that like little
Yeah. And they
like a
scream.
dog. Yeah.
35
Mountain
pounds,
lions.
I can take it.
So this is one of those where like mountain lion, whether you say mountain lion, cougar, puma, or like 2 or 3 other things, you're essentially talking about the same thing, but it's that big fucking predatory cat that kills people. The one that looks like a miniature lioness. The ones that they have in like Southern California. Yeah, the big boy over there. They have those in Southern California and in the Southwest, and plenty it down like south of the border, and those will fucking kill you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's like,
What's that
look,
noise I'm
it's
hearing?
got traps.
It's my fucking dog. She won't shut the fuck up. She's just yap,
Doesn't
yap,
like you.
yap.
She doesn't like that you're talking about all these cats.
Wait, Zach, I didn't see all the cat stats.
There were cat stats?
Yeah, there were cat stats. Put the cat stats back up.
Rats.
I'm watching videos of mountain lions scream now. This would be upsetting.
Do your best mountain lion scream.
Ah, fuck. Hold on.
I said scream. What are you pregnant?
I'm trying to.
Okay. A quick Google search says Kentucky has lots of bobcats, and the cougars used to live there, but they've been gone for 100 years.
Oh, you're an animal impressionist.
Hang on. Yeah, I got it. Okay. All right.
Let me try and do him if he was Asian.
Oh, they'd use L.
Wow.
Mountain lion will absolutely fuck you up. A cat that weighs 160 pounds can kill
That's
any
so
person.
Scary. 160-pound cat. Like, have you ever been
Yeah, it's all muscle. It'll catch you by surprise.
Yeah,
I want to grab our biggest person, right? Like a Brock Lesnar.